I'm so excited to be catching up with this woman. She does some incredible work that I've been looking at for some time now. From Memory Lane Life Stories, we have got with us the founder and story facilitator, Nina Fromhold. How are you, Nina?
Hi, Cheryl. Very well. Thank you.
Excellent. Fantastic. I'm so pleased to be chatting with you and sharing more about what Memory Lane Life Stories does, because I think it is just such a beautiful and needed resource in people's lives. But over to you first. Give us a bit of a snapshot of what is Memory Lane Life Stories.
So, Memory Lane Life Stories, we make audio recordings of people's life stories. And this is, I feel very privileged to do this work because when people work with me, I get to hear their life story, which is a lovely thing. But I also get to help them draw out all the moments that really mattered in their lives. I think the other thing that's quite special about this work is that it's all about the voice. And when we think about the things we miss when someone we love passes away, we often miss the sound of someone's voice, the little quirky things that they would say, and also their laughter. And this is something that you get to draw out when you make an audio recording. Quite different to if you write your life story. It helps make it more personal because the storyteller is the person who's lived that experience and they're telling it in their voice. So that's what we do.
I love that. And I think you and I have spoken about this, the power of just the audio. Why does that have such an impact on us because we often have videos and photos, but there's something really special about just the voice.
I think it's because it makes us feel like we're sitting in our lounge room having a conversation. So with video, you often have to take and retake the same content, and you have to settle your nerves about being on camera and all of that kind of thing. With audio, it really is like capturing a conversation. And so there's something a little more relaxed about it. But also you get to listen to it like a podcast or a radio interview, just to hear people talking.
It's very intimate, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I know from my own experience, when Mum passed away, we would call the landline of their old house because we could still access Mum's voice recording. And that became such a precious piece of audio for us to be able to hear her voice and you could hear, my mum had just some cuteness about her voice. And I jot down lots of her little mummisms, as I call them, which are things that she used to say. And, it's raining cats and dogs, or, she'd have these little sayings that she would say. And just even now, after, Mum's been gone over 10 years, every now and then something will happen and one of her verbals will come to my mind. And I love it. It's just beautiful. So tell us, Nina, what drew you to build this business and to start to create these beautiful recordings for people?
So I started doing this work about 6 years ago, and I have absolutely enjoyed working with families all across Melbourne since then. But I started it because it's quite a personal story. So I started it because of my nan. My nan was like the caretaker of our family, and she really took her role very seriously as the one who would keep us all together with her love, just with the power of her love. So my nan was really important to me when I was a little girl, and I lost her about 15 years ago. But one of my most precious memories of my nan was that every time we would say goodbye, my nan would crouch down to my height, I was little, and she'd take my little hands in her hands and look me in the eye and say, "Remember, you are always loved." And she did this every time we said goodbye. So there was something really beautiful about it, and it has always stayed with me. So when she passed away, I realised that there were a whole lot of questions I'd never asked her. So like so many grandparents, she made all of our time about us, the grandkids. She didn't really shine the spotlight on herself. And a few weeks after her funeral, my aunt was clearing out the family farm and found a cassette recording of my nan talking with a journalist from ABC Older Voices. It's just 25 minutes of my nan talking about her life before she was a wife and a mother, so long before I knew her when she was a grandmother. And in this recording, she talks about growing up in Blackburn in the 1930s, which she described as a rural area where she could pick wildflowers in the spring. And she talks about leaving home and leaving school at 14 to go and work at Lucy Secor's in the Block Arcade in the city, where she was learning to make ball dresses. So my nan's recording, it's happening at about, she's talking about a time that was about 1939 when all the local lads were heading off to war and the city started to become full of overseas servicemen. But it's also at a time in her life when she's having that first brush of independence and she's a young woman out in a young city and she's off to the theatre and the movies and she's going to balls. So it was about this time that my nan's girlfriend asked her to go to a country bush dance in Doncaster, which used to be all orchards. And it just so happened that at this bush dance, my nan met the man who would become my paps. And the last part of her recording talks about how very quickly her life changed as she became first a wife and then a mother and worked on the orchard. So this recording is really special to me for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's her voice. And it's her telling the story of a time in her life that she really enjoyed. You can hear it in her voice. She uses all of her little turns of phrase that are unique to her, and she giggles in it. And I love that. I love it that she does that. But she's also talking about a time in her life that she didn't really share with us. And so I got to learn a whole lot more about her, the person, before she was a wife and mother, and certainly a grandmother. So yeah, to get this recording about 5 weeks after my nan passed away, it really felt like a gift, and a gift of her, which was really very special at that time.
How many times have you listened back to that, Nina?
Quite a few times. So yeah, quite a few times, but never without a few tears.
Yeah.
The good kind of tears, because she was very special in my life.
And it's such a comfort. And I think what you've captured there is that's the essence of that keepsake moment. Is it's also understanding your mum, your dad, your grandparents before they took those roles on. They were people. They were, the people behind what you've always known them as, and to be able to have that opportunity for them to share that time while they're still with you, how absolutely precious that is. So what's the process? How do people get started with you, Nina, in putting this together? Like, what's involved?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we do is we spend some time getting to know each other. That's the absolute first step, because we need to create some trust and a connection. So when people give me a call, we organise to meet for a coffee or to have a long conversation. And in that conversation, people can ask me anything they like about me, my life, or the business. And I will ask them all about their life. I'll ask them lots of questions to try and build a bit of a sketch in my mind, because the next step is that I go away and create a really detailed interview that's specific to their life. And from there, we start recording. So we do recording sessions for about an hour and a half at a time, for as many sessions as are needed to tell the story that they want to tell. And once the recording is done, I take it away and start editing. So I take out the ums and ahs and the awkward moments and all of that stuff, so that in the end, what's left is a really beautiful, polished recording that my clients can feel really proud of.
That's gorgeous. I love it. One of the sections of Wishkeeper, as you know, is stories told and untold. And I think that's really the beauty of what you can create, is to extrapolate out some of those stories that perhaps the family have not even ever heard before. You must feel so privileged to be able to be the person that can create that for that family.
Yeah, that's absolutely why I do what I do. It's a really lovely thing that people come to me when they're thinking about the future, and they're really thinking about what kind of legacy or gift they can leave for the people that love them. Very similar to the work you do with Wishkeeper. People are in a certain frame of mind, and it's a really generous place to be and to share your story. It's brave, it's generous, and it allows the people that love you to have that vision into your life. So yeah, it's beautiful work.
It really is. Nina, I love catching up with you. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your story and the great work that you're doing. If people would like to learn more about Memory Lane Life Stories, what's the best approach?
Definitely Google me. You can look up Memory Lane Life Stories, or you can type in memorylanestories.com and you'll find me.
Beautiful. Thanks, Nina. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Cheryl.